Шановні журналісти, вітання. Ми
Esteemed journalists, we continue our briefings in the Ukrainian Media Center, and we are going to talk about 20,000 emergency kits to the Ukrainian soldiers, and Marko Suprun, founder and director of the Patriot Defence, director of the Humanitarian initiatives of the Ukrainian World Congress of Ukrainians, Marko Suprun, founder of the Patriot Defence, co-founder of Babylon 13, Dr. Oleksandr Linchevskyi, medical director of the Patriot Defence program, a surgeon at the 17th city of Kyiv Clinical Hospital, and Ihor Simutin, inspector of the Patriot Defence. Esteemed guests, we would like to invite you to the podium. Good afternoon. I am Marko Suprun, the director of the NGO Defense of Patriots. In May 2014, we started the Humanitarian initiative, Patriot Defence, and we started to bring to Ukraine the individual medical kit compliant with the NATO standard, and to start teaching the military men to the emergency assistance. And this is the course of the military men lifesaver, and it's based on the American course of the medical lifesaver. And these are the same courses which the American and NATO military men are being taught during their service. And we started to transfer the medical kits of the NATO standard to the Ukrainian military men. We have trained 24,000 military men in Ukraine, and we have transferred more than 20,000 of the emergency medical kits, and we also trained 500,000 of the cadets in the academies, military academies all over Ukraine. And our organization is participated by a lot of people, and these are not only ourselves who are standing here in front of you and giving this press conference to you, but we have more than 20 instructors, Ukrainians, who teach and train the military men. And we also have 8 coordinators who organize these trainings, and we have a lot of volunteers who are collecting all the necessary items to these kits, and also the companies help us to transport us to the areas of trainings. The Ford company, which is located in the city of Kyiv, helps us, and they provided us with 2 minibuses so that we can travel to the anti-terrorist operation zone to train the military men there and all over Ukraine. And we have a lot of brokers who provide their services, and also Ukrainians from US, Canada, Brasilia, diaspora, and even from the Russian Federation. We have the donors who assist us in our work, as well as the companies who provide the funds to train the military men. The gas station ACO started a program of issuing the coupons which could be used for equipping the medical kits and also carry out the trainings. We started to provide training we also started to train the physicians, and we started to train the civilians and civilian physicians to provide medical assistance to the military men. And we have received the grant from the Canadian Foundation to be able also to provide the training to the military physicians within the framework of the SMART program. And now I'd like to give the floor to our participant, senior instructor Ihor Oleksandr Linchevskyi. He's a medical director of the Patriot Defence program. He's a surgeon at the 17th hospital. Oleksandr Linchevskyi,
Thank you. I'm Oleksandr Linchevskyi, surgeon at number 17 Kyiv City Clinical Hospital. The Soviet system of help during trauma and the Soviet system of medical education was never aimed at saving every wounded person. Combat or civil trauma in Soviet interpretation did not allow for the so-called sanitary losses which essentially differs from the modern Western practice. We challenge heavy wounds, we challenge combat traumas, and when we transfer those first aid kits, when we train the fighters, we try to save every wounded person. We want to thank everyone who supported us. We will be grateful to every military person who were concerned about our program. We will be also grateful to those who already have our first aid kits and will leave them behind in their units and pass them on to their brothers in arms, because a first aid kit does not work when it is in the storage room. It works when it is on the front line. We are immensely grateful to all Ukrainians over the world who do support us. We are grateful to all our donors and benefactors, to all officials and military personnel who support us in this or that way. We call upon you not to despair and understand that your help, your support is not just about first aid kits, it's about saving lives. We grieve about those who do not want to help us. And now I pass the floor to Ihor Simutin, who is senior instructor. I am the senior instructor of Patriot Defence. Ihor Simutin, I want to tell you that we have principles that we never violate, and one of them is that we never start our training before we know for certain that we have enough time for this. How much time we need? As much as we need to train every fighter. In general, this takes 2 to 2.5 days, and we don't have so much time. We do not start training, and we never pass on the first aid kit to a person who has not undergone such training. So our military who trained with us, you know, we had cases when majors and colonels who worked for entire 2 days, they did understand why we did not give them the first aid kit. One of our slogans is, it is not the first aid kit that saves your lives, it is your skills. That's why we are so much principled about this. All our training is corresponding to TCC protocol, but of course you can read protocols in different ways. What we want to tell every unit is that one first aid kit, which, yes, can save a life in field conditions, it does cost a lot, but it does not cost anything when a person who cannot work with it takes it into their hands. They can use it really only when they have learned how to use it, and maybe even spoiled some objects from this first aid kit. So we start our training with giving them a general idea about what's there, and on the second day we introduce them to practical training where they get skills in field conditions and they understand what does not work, or maybe some people who have already gone through several stages understand that when there is a need to use this first aid kit, the conditions will be even worse. But our task is to make our armed forces to see that you don't only have to give a first aid kit to a fighter, but you have to improve and overhaul the approach to training the fighters. Sometimes I hear that they say that we are making medics out of their warriors, but no, we do not do this. If these skills save this person and their neighbor, then we are ready to go without hours of sleep on end and conduct our training during day and night time. We have more than once showed what's there in this kit. It does correspond to protocols, it does correspond to the necessities of the military, but quite often we are being asked, maybe there's something redundant in there. But let's think whom we shall ask about this. If we ask a doctor, then this kit will be 3 times as big. Then if we ask a fighter who was not wounded, then they say maybe we don't need it at all. But let's ask a person who got wounded and maybe get information about those people who were wounded and did not survive. Well, of course, there's no such statistics in Ukraine, and we are only approaching NATO and European standards. We do not swerve from them. This is our principal position. Now, Marko.
Good afternoon, Marko Suprun. I'm one of the founders of the Patriot Defence and also in Babylon 13. Our goal was to travel with the instructors and to help to transfer 21,000 of the first aid kits, medical kits. And we invited our volunteers who, are collecting all the necessary items into these more than 20,000 first aid kits. The price has decreased a little bit now, but at present it is about $90, $100 is the price of each first aid kit. So it means that the volunteers have processed 2 million worth items for these first aid kits. We left on the 7th and the 6th, and we were training the boys and girls from Carpathian Siege Battalion. This is a company of the 93rd Brigade, and these are the boys and girls all over Ukraine from Ternopil, Kharkiv, Lugansk, and I can say that they are highly motivated and they understand their role and their work. And as for me, they also understand that the main goal is not simply protect and defend, but also build Ukrainian independent state. As for me, they are one of the best. Now they are not volunteers anymore. They are part of the military forces of Ukraine, but they are one of the best units. When we were talking to them, they wanted to send the best regards to Yuri Siratyuk, who at present, unfortunately, and he was detained and he is considered to be in detention. And there is no clarity about this issue so far, unfortunately. And I'd like to attract your attention to the fact that these boys and girls, the members of the voluntary battalions from right sector, Azov, National Guards, all of them understand very well and very important thing that political transformation of the nation is going to overcome those national diseases and illnesses. And I think that this was the main conclusion from this training, that they have to protect themselves, protect Ukraine and defend Ukraine and continue to develop the Ukrainian state. We've made a short video to share this information with you so that you will see how our volunteers are putting all these first aid kits together and how we have carried out the trainings. This is a short video about the first aid kit, and it's actually created in the person of this little first aid kit to show how it is being traveling. Good morning, dear friends. We are the instructors of the organization which is called the Patriot Defence. And you are doing a great work, and you are doing part of the work we are doing together. Maybe you expected me to tell you about the first aid kits, but in reality we are going to say that not the first aid kits matter, but people provide the medical aid, so that you understand what are the components of these first aid kits and how it is used. There are certain algorithms according to which this a first aid kit has been collected. First of all, it is necessary to stop the bleeding. That's the first thing to be addressed. And this is just a rope which helps you to stop the bleeding. Yeah, good. Good, great. And just wind it. Well, I have broken it, and I think that this is a good sign of the fact that you are putting all your efforts into it. After the bleeding is stopped, there is another factor which really kills the person very quickly. It's blocking of the respiratory system. So this tube could be used to actually conduct some air into the breathing system. If somebody has cheated your sister, so how we are going to use this tube then? And the second one is the breathing device. You have to examine the chest and see whether the military man is wounded or not. We not simply feel the chest, because you won't be able thus to find the wound. There might be not even a very obvious and visible bleeding, but you have to stretch the skin, and if there is some wound, you will feel it by your fingers. And well, I'm not going to give you more details about it, but actually these are the three most important items in the first aid kit. And this is where we have to remove that rope, which is stopping the bleeding, and then to substitute it by a bandage. So we are going to create a pressure on the artery, so the bleeding is being stopped. And we have to put a bandage on the wound, but sometimes it's not enough. It's not sufficient. And if the wound is very serious, we have to actually tampon it. Well, do it this way. If you roll it, you will pull the material out of the wound. You just put it on top of the wound, and that's it. But don't do it too quickly. But very slowly remove this bleeding stopping rope. And now, good evening. We have completed our second day of our training. And today, for us, the day is very special. And we had two special days like that. And this is the third one. This is when the second day is when we have handed in the first aid kit, when we have handed in the 10,000 kit to us. And today, it's another special day when we are handing in to you the 20,000 kit. We have trained 20,000 people thus to use it. So it's 20,000.
Cameraman Yuri Gruzinov, Stefan Stetsenko, Sergei Stetsenko, and Roman Luby worked on this film. I wanted to add something very important. Those guys and girls whom we trained, they go to rotation every 3 days to frontline, and it happened so that this group that we were training had to go to positions the next day, and we were allowed to go together with them and to see how they work. And this is very close to the airport, and they are there every day. They are working there every day. They protect calm and peace there. But as you know, our colleagues from OSCE everywhere, and because of Minsk too, you know, Ukrainians were not given the right to return fire. And a week after we came there, one of the guys was shot, and one of our trainees, nicknamed Potato, had the first aid kit with her, she took this occlusive bandage and she glued it to the guy and evacuated him, and she did save his life. So this is the clear case when the political transformation of the nation overcomes national disease. And this is the national philosophy that we should disseminate. The instructors who were there at the course, Ihor Simutin, Kostyantyn Korolov, Dmytro Poplavskyi, and that's all. And that's it. So thank you very much. The transformation of the nation, according to Marko, is another manifestation of what has happened. One of the fighters who finished his tour in Azov, he came to us and he has given the first aid kit to us so that it goes back to the front. I think that we will put there the information on who had this first aid kit first, and we do hope very much that the 20,000 first aid kits will live several lives each. They will come back to combat action, and people who took them back home won't sell them, although there are such cases. We will be glad to receive these first aid kits back. We will preserve the information. We can make some inscriptions there. Please return these first aid kits. And of course, this is not the first aid kit that saves life, but people, but still we need the first aid kits. Our armed forces and our state are still not capable of providing such first aid kits. Please, give them back. This is the transformation of the nation when people come back and return these first aid kits. Thank you very much for your presentation. Are there any questions? Well, I have one question. I do think that the project is marvelous. Thank you very much for your help to Ukrainian fighters. I think that they have thanked you more than once in person, but do you plan to increase the number of first aid kits on the Ukrainian front line, and do you plan to train those guys and girls who are now studying at military universities to use these or similar first aid kits? Thank you very much for your question. Yes, we do have plans to teach every graduate of military universities and academies how to use these kits. They are already approaching us and we are already training them, and I think that we have already trained something like 30% of them, and we are talking to academies and institutes so that they introduce those programs into their official schedules, so that this does not look like there's some organization that comes and trains them, but we want them to have this as a component of their program. Yes, we do plan to increase the number because there are no NATO-standard first aid kits on the front line. Why our people went to the front line, to the assault company? Because there's no first aid kits. The brigade number 92 got their first aid kits now, and there's a S-Marks tourniquet and basically nothing else. They bought 30,000 combat courses, they bought 40,000 Ave Pharma tourniquets. I can't tell you that we have seen these first aid kits, and we are on the front line every week. We don't know where they send those first aid kits. Where we go, where we talk to people, they haven't got those first aid kits. Yes, we will cooperate. We have memorandums. We work with the National Guards, with the security service, with bodyguards, and separately with police and with airborne troops. And we officially organize cooperation with them because their command does understand that this is an important thing, and they're already talking to us about training centers for tactical medicines on their training grounds. However, the biggest organization, the Ministry of Defense, still does not understand. They are stubborn in their non-understanding. But we are trying to find common language and understanding with them so that we teach people as soon as possible, and as soon as possible pass on the NATO-standard first aid kits. If there are no other questions, please accept my wishes for success, and I hope that the ministry will heed you and the first aid kits will reach those who really need them. Thank you very much, and goodbye.